You may begin.
So the reason why we are here and as a species with this level of intellect is because of a long process of evolution. We weren't lucky, at first we weren't lucky to be the ones to be at the top of the food chain, but over time, as mammals became, more dominant in the food chain, we started developing a higher intellect, and that's why we're able to do things like create machines, go to work, etc., etc. Now, though, some people think that humans are in a completely different, level of intellect, and in many ways, yes, they are. But when you compare the intellect of the entire animal kingdom, it becomes apparent that, you can't. Intellect is a very varied, measured value. Animals have intellect in ways that matter to them, and they strive in their own ways, and we strive in our own ways. And that is why I think intellect in animals is definitely a flawed measure and concept, because you can't exactly take an animal species and compare its intellect to another. Today I've compiled a list of 3 species that display this complex critical thinking skills and intelligence across all around the world. Each species will get progressively less and less human as it goes on. The 3 animals in question today are orcas, leafcutter ants, and something that's not even a true animal. It's the Boquila plant. Each of them show their own specific skills and intelligence that, compared to the rest of the world, may seem a little foreign and off, but in reality, this is a form of extreme intelligence. Orcas, among many of the ocean's species of cetaceans, they stick out as some of the most vicious, yet also intelligent. This may seem like a recipe for danger to us humans, but in reality they're not, because they go through intense learning skills as babies and taught by their parents to eat what is right and eat what is not right. That is why they don't go after us as people. This tactical grasp on the world around them and what they should and shouldn't do is what makes them top competitors of the food chain. They always know where their pods are, but they also have intense sorry, my thing's not loading. Intense social skills around the other pods around them, such as clans, specific hunting patterns, and even cultural differences between these pods. The example I'm going to bring up today to display their intelligence, it comes from a study in 1987 around the Northeast Pacific. It was recently noticed that a couple of orcas were doing this strange behavior where they balanced a salmon on top of their head like it was a hat. People thought this was a one-off thing from one orca, but it started popping up more and more and more. More just kept wearing salmon's hats for no reason. And at first it was in one pod, but then it extended to all kinds of pods around the area. This has eventually just been chalked up as simply the orcas having a trend like us humans. This is an extreme example of high-functioning intelligence and social skills compared to most animals. And to this day, it is still a bit of a mystery to researchers around the world. But it is just one of many examples that an animal this big, with this big of a brain, has an intelligence that is very, very similar to ours, and thus cannot really be considered a dumb animal. When discussing insects on the other side, though, ants are generally one of the ones that come up first because of their very strict structures between themselves, such as, the roles of a queen ant, the worker ant, the soldier ant, etc., etc. But the one that's known for the highest intelligence displayed ever are leafcutter ants. This is because leafcutter ants have a specialized behavior of growing fungal gardens underground in their little in their hideouts. They do this because they absorb the nutrients from plants, but they do this because they use the fungal as a tool, not to consume the nutrients. They do this by gathering leaves and curating these little gardens underground as little fungal gardens, and then they use the plants to, they use the fungal to break down the plants and consume the nutrients. This is unlike any other ant species in the world because most of them just, consume the food right straight up. But with leafcutter ants, they have this unique ability to curate an entire garden that's almost a symbiotic relationship with this fungi species. Again, these gardens are basically micro-ecosystems, and each one of them has their own specific traits. However, even today, it's hard for researchers to study them because of how hard it is to just analyze them and how small they are. So many of this is still up in the air, but it is, again, a sign of extreme intelligence among an animal you wouldn't expect to have a very big brain or, very critical thinking skills either. And now, from the most different from us as a species, in April of 2014, a newly discovered species of vines was found in Chile made of a mossy base and a long, stringy stem. They made headlines in science culture because they displayed this very, very unique ability to mimic the appearance of other plants around them. This included many flowers, leaves, other vines. At first, this was already a very revolutionary discovery, but as researchers went on and on, they discovered that these plants could mimic the appearance of fake houseplants, which, again, is another extreme breakthrough in science because it not only does it prove that these plants have vision in the same way we do, but it also proves that they can mimic man-made objects. Even though they don't understand it's not a real plant, the fact that they can do this is just incredible for a plant. The ability to see the world around them is a true testament to the biological critical thinking skills of animals in the wild. Because plants aren't even really animals. They're living creatures, but they're not animals. They don't move or think. But the fact that a plant like this is able to see the world around it and know what to mimic for survival is just another proof that intelligence can come in many ways. These three species come from an extreme variety of different families and evolutionary paths, but they all demonstrate a much intellectually deeper side to them. The concept of comparing intelligence between living things is an inherently flawed practice. You can compare the intelligence between us to other animals and creatures and define what makes us so different. But in the end, no living thing was created by evolution to be a failure. All living things stride in their field, and the same applies to us as people. So think twice next time when someone struggles with a subject you think is very easy to grasp, because they might have a hidden intellect that you can't see.